Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and today I'm very excited to talk to you about the buffed, bucktooth, badass beaver, Bibarel. It's definitely beaver fever time because this guy has got some great new moves to use and I can't wait to talk to you about it. But before we get into that, if you do enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like. It really helps me understand what you want to see more of and also helps the channel at the same time. But if not, that's fine too. So Bibarel, an incredibly overlooked Pokemon, introduced in Generation 4, it's even eclipsed by its pre-evolution, Bidoof, purely because Bidoof has such high meme potential that everyone seems to still talk about Bidoof, but Bibarel really doesn't get a look in. And that's a shame because it's actually got a lot going for it even before the buffs. So its typing is normal water, which is completely unique even now 3 generations after it was introduced. And it's pretty good offensive typing. Normal type attacks have few resistances and rock is one of them, which water is super effective against. And defensively it's pretty good too, just because water's great defensive typing and normal doesn't add too many weaknesses to that. But then we have to look at Bibarel's stats and we start to see where the issues arise, because its highest stat is its attack stat at a measly 85. Nothing to boast about, although it is usable. Its HP stat at 79 isn't too bad, but its defenses are very low, which is really bad. Special attack we're not going to consider because we'll be using its attack stat more. And then its speed stat, again, it's middling. It will be outsped by a lot of things, which is kind of an issue, especially with that low bulk. But then we move on to the abilities, and again, this is another thing that Bibarel actually has quite a lot to boast about. It's got the simple ability, which doubles any stat changes. This is great for setup sweepers, but the issue for Bibarel is it's got really low starting stats, so even with double boosts, it still doesn't have the highest stats around, and also it's limited in terms of the boosting moves that it does get. So prior to Generation 7 you had things like Amnesia, which really boosts your special defense, but you're not a very bulky Pokemon, you don't have recovery, so it's not that helpful. And then you've got Curse, which probably led to the most viable Bibarel set before Generation 7, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But what it does is it boosts simultaneously your attack and defense, making you strong and bulky, but it drops your speed, so most things can outspeed you. Then we've got another great ability in Unaware. So what this does is it completely ignores the opponent's stat changes, which is really good for defensive Pokemon on defensive teams. This thing is definitely not that. You need good natural bulk before Unaware, because if you can't take a setup's Pokemon's hits without them setting up, then Unaware is completely irrelevant anyway. So that's the issue for Bibarel there. Also no recovery, but it is a good ability. It's just a shame about the stats. And then Bibarel's final ability, which is Moody, which is a really good ability because it's giving you free stat changes, which is very, very helpful. But unfortunately, it's banned in a lot of Smogon tiers, which many people play, and which is generally in the singles format, which is what I focus on, generally banned and you won't see it. So I mean, it's a luck-based strategy, so you can understand why, but it's an area where Bibarel can actually do some stuff, which is cool. So before Generation 7, as I said, the main, I would say probably only semi-viable set for Bibarel would be a Curse set, where you could run like a specially defensive Bibarel and then go for some curses, boosting up your defense and your attack at the same time. And what's pretty nifty for Bibarel is it does have priority in quick attack, so it can run kind of waterfall quick attack coverage and be able to do some damage with waterfall, pick off anything that's faster with quick attack after some curse boosts. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat set. It's not very effective. There are things that are much better without having to set up at all. So it was definitely a niche set that for people that just wanted to use Bibarel. But moving into Generation 7, all of that has changed dramatically. So the first buff we're going to talk about is a moveset change. Bibarel now gets Liquidation, which is an upgrade from its previously most powerful water-type stab in Waterfall. Liquidation is 5 points more powerful at base 85 rather than base 80, which is pretty neat. And also I'd say the secondary effect is probably more helpful as well, because with Waterfall you're trying to flinch the opponent. Bibarel is not the fastest thing, so you have to go first to be able to flinch your opponent. If you're not outspeeding them, then the secondary effect of Waterfall is completely irrelevant. Whereas Liquidation, you're dropping the opponent's defense stat. That doesn't matter if you're faster or slower than them, because if you drop their defense stat, that's really helpful. Even if they're faster than you, you drop their defense stat and they're going to take you out next turn, you've got priority, so you can do more damage to them with your priority. So I'd say Liquidation all round is just a better stab water type move for this Pokemon to run. The second buff we're going to talk about is still along the same lines, increasing water type coverage. That is going to be Aquajet. So I said it's already got priority in quick attack. Aquajet is really nice because there are fewer immunities to it. There are loads of ghost types running around. There are fewer water immunities that have to rely on their abilities for that. And also it helps Bibarel just be able to use different coverage. So maybe before it was using more quick attack and waterfall, now it can still do quick attack liquidation, or you can do Aquajet and double edge or return, and that actually allows you a more powerful main stab to use. Equally, you could run Aquajet and liquidation if you want to. It just gives you more options, which is always helpful, and I think that's really good. Aquajet really opens up Bibarel's moveset a lot more. But those two are basically just the entrees to the main, which is this next buff, which is Swords Dance, which is huge, because what this does is it boosts Bibarel's attack stat dramatically in one turn. You go from 0 boosts to +4 in one turn. That's 3 times your damage output in one turn. It's absolutely amazing. Bibarel's max attack stat at level 100 is 295. After one Swords Dance, that rises to 885. That's more powerful than a Darmanitan after a Swords Dance, which it doesn't even get. That's insane power, and it's so cool that Bibarel gets this now. Now, obviously, you do have to be able to get that Swords Dance off. Bibarel doesn't have the best bulk, but I do think it has enough bulk to be able to get a Swords Dance off. And then immediately it becomes an incredible wall breaker, and also with that priority, you can take out frailer, faster Pokemon that try to revenge kill you. So it's a really neat move, especially in the lower Smogon tiers, which is where this guy definitely is. It's pretty cool. And so with the coverage that I talked about before, you can run different sets. You can run liquidation with quick attack, or you could run double edge or return with Aquajet. I would definitely advocate running crunch as a coverage move, just because if you do want to use this in the most appropriate format, it would be Smogon PU at the moment. And there is Jellicent there, which is completely immune to both of Bibarel's stats. But after one Swords Dance, crunch is always an OHKO. And is very good. I think that Life Orb is probably the best item on this set, because it just means your damage output is even higher and you're going to be decimating any store teams, any walls. You can really punch through those. So I do like the Life Orb, but you could always consider maybe a Lumberry if you're worried about getting burned. It just helps your setup a bit easier. And then I want to talk about Z moves, not as necessarily as a separate buff, because I don't think that this Pokemon is the best user of Z moves, but I do think that it gives you some more options again in its moveset. So first off, obviously you can run just offensive Z moves, and the best ones for that I would say would be the Waterium Z and Liquidation, just for a more powerful Hydro Vortex. Your normal stabs in return and double edge are higher base power anyway, so if you want to run an offensive Z move, maybe Waterium Z Liquidation is a good option. But then if you do want to run a Breakneck Blitz, you can definitely do that. Definitely do it off double edge though, not return, because the power differential for a Breakneck Blitz compared to a Life Orb return is really not that great. So if you want to do Breakneck Blitz with return, you probably should be running a Life Orb instead. But with double edge, it's much higher base power and it's a really good option. It does get more coverage moves. I mentioned Crunch. It also gets Stomping Tantrum, which is new, so you could potentially run a Tectonic Rage set or maybe a Black Hole Eclipse off Crunch. But those are your offensive Z move options, which are kind of interesting. But there is one other option that I definitely want to mention, mainly because of the limitations of it. It may look like a good option. I don't think it's as good as it may seem on paper. And that is that Bibarel can now boost its speed, which it couldn't do before, through status Z moves. The issue is that Simple doesn't work with status Z moves. So if you want to boost your speed with a status Z move, you only get +1 even with Simple ability. So that's really frustrating. But I'd say the best one to run is probably Z Rain Dance with the Waterium Z, and then obviously running Liquidation there, because you're getting a power boost with the Rain as well as a +1 speed. Now Bibarel isn't the fastest thing, so with this set you're most likely having to run Jolly, and you've not got a Life Orb to boost your damage output, although you will have the Rain, so that's kind of good. But what's neat about this set is that you can, if you can't get the Z Rain Dance off, you can always rely on your Hydro Vortex off Liquidation. So that's cool. It gives you a bit more flexibility in the battle there. But you do lose out on another coverage move slot because you have to run Rain Dance and Swords Dance for this guy just to be an amazing dancing beaver and getting all of his boosts. But yeah, I think it's a cool option. I don't think it's as effective as just Swords Dance Life Orb with Crunch. I think that's definitely your best option right now. So that is the beaver all wrapped up for you. I do hope you like it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like on the video and also subscribing to the channel. I don't upload particularly regularly, so it's probably about once a week. If you don't want to miss one, or if you want to be the first in the queue to see my videos, then click on the bell to get notifications from my channel, because then you'll see everything as soon as it comes out and you can get all excited to use the new Pokemon with the awesome buffs. But that's all for today. All that's left for me to say is I've been Fufu, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.